first of all, welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Molly Schotzko. I'm a scholarly assistant professor here in the Murrow College. I teach on the advertising track. I recognize a lot of your faces here today. We have an amazing group of students, so thank you for being here. You're going to learn a lot from our panelists today. They're really awesome, and I don't say that lightly. So today we're going to be talking about, it's called Beyond the Game, the Power of Sports Journalism and Promotion. I think if everybody who is here right now and you saw sport in the title, right, you probably, like me, have some affinity towards sport in some way, correct? Right? I love sport too, and what I love about it is the connections. I love the connections, and Sarah, our keynote speaker this morning, Caneller, you're going to hear from her as well as our panelists. She talked about connection and curiosity this morning, and that connection that sport brings. We're going to be talking about how that basically manifests through the industry in different ways, okay? So you're going to be hearing from the promotion side and the production side today of different ways where sport can fuel that innovation and creativity. These are exactly things we talk about in the classroom too, so I'm so excited that you get to hear real examples of people innovating in this space. So before, I'm just going to have the panelists introduce themselves a little bit. So before we dive in, and you are, let me go back here. Oops, it's not a touch screen, everybody, in case you're wondering. Okay, not a touch screen. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about Christy Ellison, and Christy is our communication strategist with a deep experience in creative brand storytelling and public relations and marketing communications. She's currently with WaFd Bank in marketing communications. So Christy, could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself related to today's topic?
Yeah, are these on? Okay, good. I'm an O1 grad. After I graduated, I went and did an internship at Rocky West, which was bought out by Hill & Knowlton, so I've got some agency experience, but I also have like in-house, and I mean, I did a little bit of everything. I was just eager to keep learning, so I think a lot of you, when you leave here and you graduate, you won't be done. So I did a little bit of everything, traveled the world for a while, and did a stint of 12 years in insurance, which is a lot more fun than you think it is. And been working in sports for, 15, 17 years, something like that. And if you're passionate about sports, you'll be able to find your way to work it into your job in some way or another. And I hope you guys have a great time today.
Yay. Okay, so next we're going to go to Sarah. Why don't we start next with you? And so Sarah can speak a little bit. Sarah's also an innovator in the esports space. So if you heard her this morning, so she's going to talk a little bit about her experience.
Yeah. So my background, I started in traditional sports broadcasting, right? So I started with the NFLs, MLBs, NBA, PGA, did the US Open, did all the things, right? I was recruited into gaming, actually, by a company called Valve Corporation. They needed to figure out how to translate this idea of esports, which at the time was a very small, gritty operation of, a couple people, a couple PCs, trying to figure out how to make this thing work. And they signed a deal with ESPN and got a little too over their skis. So my job was to come in, figure out how to translate what they were doing with esports and make it fit back into the wrapper of what we know in conventional sports broadcasting, right? So that led to a very fun run with the International Dota 2 Championships, which was the primary IP that I was working on, but also, if you're gamers, Counter-Strike League, and then I was also responsible for running Steam on the broadcasting event side as well. With that, really just looking at the intersection, I'm excited to talk today with the other panelists that we have about the intersections of gaming, promotion, and then community building, and how to really leverage all those things together.
Yeah, and welcome, Sarah. Our third panelist is Megan Martinez, and sorry about that. Megan Martinez specializes in content strategy, blending journalism and promotion for athletic teams and brands. She's currently with the Seattle Seahawks. And Megan, if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Megan, with the Seahawks as the social producer, video coordinator. Graduated from Murrow College of Communication, and then right after college, I had an internship with Utah Jazz in the broadcasting department, kind of got my foot in the door. From there, I transitioned into Fox Sports in Los Angeles. I worked there for 2 years, and it was my first time working national news. It was really cool. I had a small producer role. I would, cut tapes, produce or pitch segments, and work with the team, always wanting to kind of like move up. And so I was there for 2 years. And then from there, I transitioned to NFL Network, where I was an associate producer. This was my first time covering a weekly show. So when I was at Fox, I was doing a daily show on FS1. And then I moved to NFL, and I was producing their big show on Sunday, which was really fun. Transitioned to like talent producer, and then segment producer. And then this last year, I made the move to come back closer to home and working with the Seattle Seahawks. I'm a content producer, basically creating concepts for the team, for digital, editing, basically doing a lot of stuff, on camera, off camera. It's a lot of fun, and I'm just excited to be here, so thanks for having me.
So I've been fortunate enough to have some time to speak with each of our panelists about their experience. So we have a couple prepared questions. We also have some things we might pull up of examples that you can see as some of the work. So the first kind of space we're going into is talk about the storytelling. So we want to talk about how storytelling and connecting people through sports and how we've done that. So for this first question, we want to talk about connection. So in your respective roles, tell us more about how you're connecting people either to each other, to the brand, or to the audience that you work with. And so, Sarah, why don't we first start with you? And so how does this look different in esports versus traditional forms of sport for you?
Yeah, I think this is the thing that's surprising to a lot of people as they learn more about gaming, is that it really doesn't. At the core of it, right, what you're doing is you're building the personal story. You're building the personal brand affinity. And whether that's happening through an IP, through a sports team, through a league, through, or a game or a player, in all of those instances, what you're looking at is where is the gravity in the character? And what is relatable about this story, and how do people see themselves relating to it? Is it inspirational? Is it aspirational? Is it motivational? And really focusing on those things. And gaming provides a little bit of an additional layer because we have the ability to have such point-to-point communication, right? How many of your professional, traditional sports athletes can you be in their DMs on Twitch chat and be talking to them and they're responding to you in real time, right? That's a unique thing that we get in gaming. And so, from that capacity, there's really just an extra layer of amplification that we get to play with in games.
That's great. Christy, what do connections look like in your world as you're shaping these partnerships and elevating brands? So we've talked about kind of the esport athlete. What's that look like, when people see you work at a bank? And we tell our students there's so many opportunities in sports and other industries. So what does that look like for you of those connections?
Yeah, so when I first started getting into my career, I didn't really think it would lead me here into working with sports or brand promotion, partnerships. I don't say sponsorships because I truly believe in the real partnership that they are both brands are doing something from each other, but it has to be the right fit. It has to be the right partner for the right brand. And working on the brand side, I get the opportunity. People want my money, so there's that. But making sure it's the right fit for our audience, for our clients. And if they're pumped about that sports brand or whatever, they're going to have that affinity. You're going to get the halo effect. But then you're going to have access to a lot of other things, from the talent of the team to the individual contributors, to their back office staff, people like yourself, and creating those relationships to come up with some really amazing ideas and activations to help engage your customers and audience with for either retention or acquisition. So it's really important that we're able to make those connections with the audience, because that's the whole point of having partnership.
Do you want me to the sport partnerships so you can share a little? It's so cool.
One of the we have partnered with the Kraken. We're a founding partner with them. We've partnered with the Sounders. We're in a partnership conversation right now with the Mariners. We do the Seawolves, which is a rugby team. And so we with Stephen Fry, Jamie Lexiak, and basically you have access to the entire Seawolves team. Anyone there? Rugby's really cool. It's not something I really knew much about, and it's actually more fun to watch sometimes than football. Sorry. I'm just like, this is so different and weird. And then with the social impact opportunities, before I got to WaFd Bank, they were sponsoring men's teams. And they weren't sponsoring any women's professional teams. I was like, this is not okay. So we brought on the Storm as a partner, and we've got some really great assets with them. We have to sink it for cash, like during the middle of the game somewhere. You can win $10,000 if you sink a free or a half court shot. And then I created a program because I always want to make sure that my partnerships have a social impact component to it. And so I worked with the team, and we're trying to figure out what does this, finance and basketball, like how does this fit together? And we were just talking, and we found out there were some Title I schools, which are schools of areas of opportunity with high low-income populations. There's like 300 kids at the school and like 4 basketballs, which is like not okay. And so wanting to make sure that the students understand why it's important to be financially literate or financially fit, but also at the same time physically fit. So we created this program called Fit Futures, and we go to a Title I school, elementary. We bring in a player, Doppler, which is their mascot. We bring in their MC from all the games. We do like a quick, fun Q&A with the player, and like, what are you saving for, and what's something that as a kid you saved up to buy, and what's the importance of saving and learning how to responsibly use your money. And then we tell them, okay, we're going to give you a $5,000 check to buy new school equipment, and we're going to give you this financial literacy platform so all the teachers have access to these wonderful online tools for their kids to teach them about how to be financially responsible. And then they'll get to go to a Storm game. And so we give them tickets to the schools and staff and faculty and their families for the kids. And the kids are just ecstatic. And then so I am excited that, I find out later from the PE teachers, because I get to work with them too, we were able to buy like 50 basketballs and like all of these mats and jump ropes, and they're so excited they're getting to replace this equipment. At the same time, I manage the online platform for the social literacy stuff. And so I get to see all the kids like playing the little lemonade stand game and figuring out how much money they're able to make and all these different choices they can make, and like why insurance is important and like how to write a check, boring things that you think are boring, but someone who actually has to teach people sometimes like how to write a check, even though you probably won't write a lot anymore, but at some point in your life you'll probably have to write a check, and it's nice to not look like an idiot when you do that. And then even beyond the court and whatnot, I get to work with like Stephen Fry. He's the goalie for the Sounders. If you don't know him, he is an amazing artist, and we work with him a lot. He's done commercials with us, and we wanted to find a way to highlight his artwork. WaFd sponsors at Climate Pledge Arena. It's the WaFd Lounge, and this is a gorgeous space. You can go. There's like bars and restaurants in there. Amazing seating, and we have this big ugly wall with nothing on it, like right as you get off the escalator adjacent to the living wall. And we're like, we need to put something here. And so Steph's an artist. I'm like, what should we do with this space? And he's like, well, I'll make something for you. And we're like, yeah. And we just kind of gave him free reign. And he came up with this gorgeous piece. It's like an old map of downtown Seattle.
Put up your slides so they can see it.
And so
good.
it's like this 5-foot by 5-foot canvas, and it's the old map of Seattle. And he's taken his artwork and he's hand drawn this entire map like from a projection, and he's showing the crack and emerging into Seattle. And this giant piece is hanging in the WaFd Lounge. We've got a plaque next to it, talking about who did this and why it's important. And it got picked up by like the NHL. It got picked up by a bunch of local publications and media. The Kraken were circulating it everywhere. And then he got to meet a couple of the goalies who work for the Kraken, and they're like goalie to goalie hanging out and like fist bumping and everything. And to create this experience, and now people get to come in and see his artwork, get to read the stories about how it came to be, his history as an artist. So he's more than just a player now, he's a person. He's an artist. He's opening himself up to another part of another community, and anyone who comes in can come and see this. And our brand is connected to that. And to me, that was like so special to be able to bring sports and art and like soccer and hockey and like all of these things that you don't think would make sense, like finance and basketball, to weave it into this fun, cool idea where you're like bringing something else to your clients and your community that is just a little different and weird, but cool.
So it's so cool to hear these ideas. So students in the room, this is creative, innovative marketing communications, right? How Christy's bringing an idea and bringing that connection alive through her business and coupling with that brand. So really, really cool stuff. And I love that we have pictures. Thank you so much. Sarah, so this now to talk to you about like Seahawks, right? So what does creating a connection look like from your perspective, and how are you elevating the brands of players and through all that you do with athletes?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is authenticity. So, you know, you can be a fan of the Seahawks, but a lot of times when you have your favorite team, if it's NFL or NBA, you become attached to the players and you want to know what they're like off the field. And so my job, basically, I do a lot of storytelling because I'm trying to get fans to keep, stay engaged with the content I'm putting out there, and then also get to know the players. And so, I have this with JSN. He's one of our wide receivers. Great, just made the Pro Bowl. This session here, we just did a little interview talking about his stats and his old teammates at Ohio State University that are now in the NFL. It was a fun segment, but basically you want to have the players be able to like trust you, kind of letting them know that you're always gonna want to, record or like do work with them, but then you always want to make them look good, and that's the goal. You don't ever want to make them feel like they're gonna look bad or the brand look bad. So that's our whole goal. And then if you go to the next slide too, we do a lot of fun like social stuff, and here we do like, this is more off cam. You guys, if you follow the Seahawks, you probably have seen this stuff. And Devin Witherspoon's another one of our great players. He's a cornerback, and he has such a fun personality. And I didn't know that until I started working and watching like different social channels and seeing like who these players are. Like they're just people like us, and that's like something people forget. And this one was fun because it was like, what is your guilty pleasure show? And he walked up to the camera like so proudly, and he was like, the Originals and Vampire Diaries are like my show. And it was like surprising because like seeing like an NFL pro athlete just saying that, but it's really cool. And so I think for like a regular person, I wouldn't say regular person, but like me, let's say, watching that, you feel a little bit more connected to the player and off the field, and it kind of like gets you excited about, being excited with being a fan of the Seahawks. So.
That's awesome. I love the pictures too that you guys sent. So we're going to move in, and you've already kind of touched on this, but I want to talk about brand building. And Christy, you kind of mentioned that a little bit, and how we can tie that kind of the promotion of the athletes. So athletes are brands, and building that brand is more important than ever. So what strategies have you found the most effective in shaping and maintaining an athlete or sports brand or image? So Christy, I was going to go back to you to start with this one. So discuss the role of the personalities and discovering that relationship between the brand and the athlete.
It's very important to pick the right person. If it's not a good fit for our brand, and then there's a lot of risk. Like people get DUIs, people get arrested for stuff, like shit happens. And so you have to make sure that or they get injured, when they get traded. I mean, it happens all the time. And so we're constantly like, oh crap, is Jamie going to get cut this year? Is like, we've invested a lot of money with him. And like, so that's always a risk you take. But then are they someone who, can connect with your brand in an authentic way that isn't just pay for play? And like with Steph, like, it was just such a good fit. He's such a nice guy. And during the pandemic, he was still working with us, helping with some commercials and doing things like that. And then when the pandemic ended, we had all these giant pieces of plywood that we put over the windows at the branch downtown in Seattle. And we're like, what should we do with this? And Steph's like, oh, that's canvas to me. Can I have some of these? And we're like, sure. And he donated one of them that he painted over this piece of plywood. And it sold for like $2,000. It went to a charity. He donated it to an auction, and he's that kind of good person. And those are the kinds of people those brands want to be affiliated with. Someone who's not just a one-trick pony, who's safe. It might not be the most exciting player, the most highly paid player. He's pretty awesome, but I'm just a little biased. And they have to be able to want to be there for the thing that they're doing and not just for the paycheck. When we first started working with Jamie, he was very green, but he said he stayed up all night learning his script for his commercial. And he was like, I just don't want to mess this up. So he was like, I was up all night, like just reading my lines with my girlfriend. And we were like, man, like you've got 4 things you need to say. He's like, this is really important to me. And so knowing his dedication, that it meant a lot to him, we're like, okay, yeah, we picked the right guy. And his nickname too, his little quirks, he's called the Big Rig because when he has his skates on, he's like 6'7". And so you want to find someone with personality too. And so that you know that they're going to keep things interesting. And he's just been a great guy to work with. So you want to pick those kinds of people.
Did you want me to show the little
Yeah.
spot in this section? You can. We have a little.
Rewards don't usually come easy. A lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice. Investing in the right relationships. Making wise choices. And pushing forward, even when it feels like you're going nowhere. But sometimes, the right opportunity lets you soak up rewards without even thinking about it. And we can all bank on that.
Get rewarded with interest checking at Waffet Bank.
So he was like, I want my dogs be in the commercial. He's like a huge dog guy. And he on his social media post, it's called Wrinkle Wednesday. And he posts pictures of his dogs. And he always, if like people comment, he always replies back. He's such a nice guy. He was so easy to work with. And he was making he's like, well, he was in the hot tub and he's like, yeah, get some cucumbers on me. And we work with Trifilms, and they were really great to work with in Seattle. And they brought all these really weird props and stuff. And he's going through the props like, oh yeah, I got some bubbles and I can do this. And just a joy. And so it's people like that. I mean, he's been in the industry for a while, but he's like, I've never done this before. I've never worked with a brand in this kind of authentic way before where we're both having a lot of fun. So it's those kinds of partnerships that I don't know. I mean, I've just been really lucky to have these throughout my career. And so I don't know what it's like to have a crisis plan for like a personality that I had to work with that, you know, I was scared about. So making those really good gut feeling choices is just, it pays off in dividends. That's a banking term.
It's really great. Sarah, highlight the role of the digital storytelling aspect in creating this experience and how that shapes the fan engagement process. So, and we're talking about kind of brand building, and I was just so inspired when we were having that conversation about the how the players, it's about the game and the experience. So could you talk a little bit about how that builds fan engagement and that connection of how you decide what personalities that you are involving in the brand?
Yeah. So I think a great jumping off point is just double tapping on the importance of authenticity, right? We can all tell when something's fake. We can all tell when it's packaged up and we're being fed garbage. We know that, right? Our consumers are smart. And so I think that one of the things that we've had just a ton of fun with in gaming is the ability to be able to build a local community, but on a global scale. And so what that lets us do is have, these communities and these connections where even though you are looking at a global esport tournament scene, we still have hyper local like heroes for so that's why we have regionals, that's why we have locals, that's why we have, this whole structure set up. And so what that lets us do is it lets us get to know each one of the players on a very personal basis. And if any of you how many of you are gamers in here, just out of curiosity? Okay, a few, enough. So if you know anything about gaming, so when we were first starting, brand building for a lot of gamers was awkward. Like they didn't have these like athlete personas. They didn't have these, we didn't have the God shot that you could, put it at a low angle and they just immediately look tough like you get with hockey teams or with football teams, right? So we had to take a very different approach to it and say, it's not about how cool they look. It's about how genuine they are. And so what that lets you do is like strip away just all of the noise, and then you get to know the real person underneath. And so that authenticity, I think, is really like the core of everything for us.
It's such a cool, as we think about brand building, I just think that's such a cool concept with gaming. And I was telling Sarah, like my daughter's recently got into gaming, and just the community aspect is really awesome of how you can capitalize that with your brands too. So Megan, explain how journalism and marketing intersect sport promotion and what this looks like in brand building for you.
Yeah, so Seahawks, we work with a lot of brands. basically, the better story that I tell with my content, the more engagement we get. The more engagement, the better it looks for our partners that we work with. We have sponsorships that we have, like numbers we have to meet from a digital point of view. So it's my job to make sure you're telling the best story, you're putting your best content out there. So when you're working with the players, something that I put up, we just got a new player. He came, I think we signed him about 2 weeks ago in free agency. It's like slide 10. Cooper Cup. Pretty exciting. Yeah, we've had a busy off season, but right off the bat, just getting to know these players and finding out more about them and the brands that they have. And so if you flip to the next slide, right here, he actually has his own brand on the side. It's a family company. It's called the Dodo brand, and it's a coffee company that his family has. But the better that you make the players look, the more the fans want to kind of support those players, and that also helps their brand. So, we talk about how you want to humanize the players, and you have to remember, like they're football players. That's their job. But then on the side, they also have hobbies that they like, or they have life outside of football. And so the more you can kind of like help those players with their brands, the better your job's going to be, the better the trust is going to be, the connection with the players and working with them is. So it's all about brand when it comes to the Seahawks in general, about like working with brands, but then also with the players. It's a whole other layer, and just making sure you're always kind of promoting them as well, because they are the Seahawks. So yeah.
So Megan, we're going to stick with you to move to kind of the future of sport journalism and where you see that. So just so the group knows, we'll spend about 10 minutes on this section, and then we'll have Q&A. So if you have questions, you can start thinking of those. We'll leave about 10 minutes for questions. So with rapid changes in media consumption, a lot of that we've talked about today, where do you see the future of sport communication heading from your lens, and how can students prepare for these careers?
Yeah, so I mean, even when I first started out a couple years ago, and in sports news television to where I am now, the digital space, it's transitioned a lot. So I think before you would see like a TV screen, and that's where you get your content. That's what you're watching. You're watching ESPN. You're watching Fox. Now you have so many different platforms: Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok, where you're learning about what's going on in the world and the sports world. So, from like my opinion, I feel like it's best to start adapting to what's new and what's current. Always be ready to learn new systems. If it's this last year learning like CapCut is so simple, but like just to like specialize in that and like be great at that. Or we're working with a new brand soon. I can't think of the name, but just always working hard, being diverse, always being open to new just tools, and kind of just being able to tell storytelling in a different point of view. I think it's a different lens. Like even digital storytelling, for example, you always want to have your best, most engaging content like from the first 3 to 5 seconds, because otherwise, if you don't, people are going to keep scrolling. So I think for as a student, you just have to learn about like what you as a viewer want to see from like a digital point of view, and then really like lean into that, and just being open to change, because there's gonna be a lot of change. I think the next few years, it's always changing. Just even with esports, I was telling Sarah, like I've learned more and more about that. I didn't even realize that there's a whole broadcast channel that goes with it, which is so cool. So I just think the more and more the better off you are.
Thank you very much. Sarah, we'll go to you next. And I was just blown away by the AI discussion. And then this morning, if you missed Sarah's keynote, it's recorded. It's totally worth watching. It's amazing. If you could speak a little bit to where you see the future, and also just related to what students can do to prepare for that.
Stay a student. Just keep that mindset forever. So over the last couple of years, right, we've seen just the absolute proliferation of augmented reality, of AI-generated art, AI-generated video. Now we have things like Sora that are out, and very quickly will be replicating at scale. And the models are learning faster and training harder now than they ever have historically. And so it is even more important now to not only understand how all of these tools work and how you can command them, but also how you can control them. And so there's two really important parts to that conversation. And one part is like the better we understand something, right? So the more we can like dissect the technology and what's in it, the more we can unpack the black box of AI. The more we can know what is misinformation, what is disinformation, what's image appropriation, when content is being recycled or reused in a way that it's not permitted to be, all of these types of things, right? And so knowing the tools, but also knowing how to use them as tools, but then how they can be used as weapons, because that helps us discern in a really, really logical way.
That's great. Could you speak a little bit also to your research that looked at your research this morning that you discussed related to AI and triggers of different. I'm not going to explain it right, but it was fantastic. So could you use a little? Could you explain a little bit of that for people that missed that related to future?
Yeah, of course. So we've done some research, and we've got a game in progress right now that is looking specifically at how over time you can introduce media, or you can introduce campaigns to players. And what we are looking at is how you take players on a journey through a multimedia component game for us, and you help that player identify their own biases and their own blind spots. And then over time, what we're doing is we're mapping on the back end how many interventions it takes in order for the player. We never tell them what to think, when to think it, or how to think it, but map on the back end and see how many interventions it takes before you actually guide that player, before that player realizes that they do in fact have some biases, or that they have in fact accepted misinformation as truth. And so it's a really interesting gameplay. So on the surface, it's a narrative adventure game. Underneath, it's mapping very, very deep story. But what this tells us as an industry of game makers, what it tells us as publicists, what it tells us as, when we're looking at promotions, and for all of you as, Murrow students, ethics, responsibility, trust in reporting. What it does is it helps us unpack how misinformation, disinformation, and artificial intelligence really can be used as a weapon. But mostly it focuses on how do we make people smarter and more discerning. So just visibility on that already helps the conversation.
I love that. Sometimes we talk about how can we use these tools of advertising for good, right? How can we use these tools to advance society? And that was just such a great example. So, Christy, what does this look like for you, a future, and what advice do you have for students to prepare for their careers now?
Oh gosh. Think big, start small, move fast. If you fall down, get back on the horse. I've had a lot of failures, but as long as you treat them like a learning opportunity, you're never, that's never going to damage you. It's never, at least in our careers, hopefully, no matter how bad you screw up, you're not going to kill any babies. So that's been one of the biggest things. It's it's going to be okay. Even when you think it's not, it's going to be fine. My second one is, this is something one of my first bosses taught me. It was no ASCII, no Giddy. So you fail 100% of the things you don't ask help for. It could be for help, it could be for a job, it could be for an internship, it could be a promotion, it could be a tip or a lead on a story or an opportunity. If we hadn't asked Fry, hey, would you like to do this piece for us? Sure. You miss everything you don't take a chance on. And that's the other thing too, is take risks, get out there and then show up. Showing up is how you win shit, how you get your jobs, how you excel your careers. Join boards, volunteer. The more people see your face, make yourself annoying a little bit. This is how I got the job I have now, is that I was 12 years in dental is a really long time. I love what I'm doing, but I want to see what else is out there, work with a different brand, take another step, which is scary. So quitting your job and moving to something new. And this was before I had the job that I didn't know I was going to get. And I serve on the board of directors for the Seattle Sports Commission. We're bringing FIFA World Cup to Seattle. We brought the MLB All-Star Game, the Winter Classic. We also bring the NCAA to Climate Pledge. That is our job, is to be an economic driver, bringing sports into Seattle, sharing sports with the region, working with other sports entities and commissions, making sure that we're doing what's best practices, but you know, at the same time competing for some of the same events. Like, I don't know if we're ever going to get the Super Bowl, but if you don't try and, you know, go out on the limb and take those chances, I would never have my job. I was just, hey, talking to one of my colleagues on the sports commission. I was like, yeah, I'm looking for a new job. She's like, well, come work for me. And I'd applied to a bunch of other things, and I was like, okay, right. She's like, come speak to the marketing director, or the VP of marketing. I was like, okay. So I would have a conversation with him, and he was actually an old news broadcaster. His name is Brad Good. He was on like that, dude, Pepsi, Where's My Jet? He's in that documentary, and he was like that 1980s movie Ski Patrol, which is really weird because like now he's my boss. But I just had a coffee conversation with him. I said, so do you want to see my resume? Do you want to like, do I have to go to HR and like sign up on a website or something? He's like, no, the job's yours. I mean, it was the craziest, like, I had been searching for, I'd had interviewed at like Amazon and Blue Nile and like all these other places, and this thing just like falls into my lap because I knew somebody, you know. So you never know where your next opportunity is going to come from. So the more you show up, the more you're going to expand those opportunities.
That's awesome. I'm going to ask one more question because I want to piggyback on that a little bit. But if you had a piece of advice for students trying to break into your specific field, so we have kind of, you know, different parts of this represented today, right? So somebody trying to break into that esports arena, maybe in promotion and or production. So think of your respective areas, and what's one piece of advice that you have for students that want to kind of break into those fields?
I think I would probably say be you. Because at the end of the day, don't wonder what do they want to hear during the interview. What do they want me to say? What is the, you know, like, who cares, honestly, what they want to hear you say. And so be you, be unapologetically you. And also, I have found that the best interviews that I've been a part of have been ones where they absolutely grilled me back. Because what that shows me is that they want to find a place that fits for them and that they know what they want. And when you have somebody that's coming on, especially somebody who's young or who's green, if they come in with that amount of conviction and they know what they want, boy, I'm going to let you run with it, right? So that's the quickest way for me in the esports industry, right? It's very non-conventional. It's very non-traditional. But if you're looking at games, if you're looking at esports, if you're looking at even, you know, like a lot of the other fringe sports that are not like your major leagues, right? It's a very different process, but show up, be you, have fun.
That's awesome. Megan, do you have anything to add to that, you think?
Pretty much. Like, I just remember one of, I think it was during my time at NFL, or maybe I was trying to get into the NFL, and somebody once gave me a piece of advice, and it was, if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? And it's like so cliche, but it's so true because there are so many people going after these jobs that, you know, if you're scared, because sometimes I would get like afraid to message people or like reach out to people on LinkedIn. I'm like, well, somebody else is going to do it, so I might as well do it and be that person. I just would encourage people to, you know, put yourself out there. I think, you know, networking, going to events like this is great. Meeting people on LinkedIn, but like having a relationship with them, not just reaching out to them when you want a job, like kind of like showing them your work that you've done. Like, okay, since I've spoke to you last, like this is what I've done in the last like month or two. Or, you know, when I first got my job at Fox Sports, I actually applied to a different job, didn't get it, but I stayed in touch with the hiring manager and just would send him my work that I had like been doing on my own, like other companies. And then he ended up reaching out to me about a couple months later, telling me about this job at FS1, the Daily Show. And basically the job was mine. But it was because I kept that relationship with him and shown how much I'd done on my own time, kind of stood out from everyone else. So I just would give you guys that advice too, to just put yourself out there and stay true to yourself and yeah, just work hard.
That's so great. Christy, did you have anything else to add to that question?
If you don't know something, don't say I don't know. Say, but I will learn or I will figure it out. So I remember I did a stint in biotech and life science for a while. I got real nerdy with some lab rats and like really got in with some fun like biotech and like cancer research. I was running their website and making brochures, and I traveled the world doing trade shows. And I had my second day on the job, I had to write a water treatment manual on how to use a product on clearing or purifying water off of construction sites. And I was like, whoa, okay. So I went down in the basement literally and was like talking to the guys who like made this, like scientists who made this product. I'm like, this is the only way I'm gonna figure out how this thing works. And like I had to like the picture and then the description and the picture and then like the description. And they walked me through everything. And I was like, wow, guys, thank you so much. He's like, no one comes down here to talk to us, so thank you for coming down. And then I made this, and it was for construction workers. So I had to write it at a construction worker like level. And when I went to go work for Delta Dental, they were asking me, well, you spent all this time in biotech. What makes you think you're going to be good at insurance? I said, if I can write a water reclamation manual my second day on the job, I think I can figure out dental. And they're like, okay, yeah, you're right. So just be hungry, go after it, like learn something new. Some of my colleagues and I, we have a term called purple squirrel. And that is like, be like the most colorful, like useful weirdo you can be. Like know how to write HTML, learn Python, and then like go ahead and like get really good at learning those AI tools, get good at learning how to like do all those creative tools, learn how to like do SEO search, and like just learn how to do all the different things. And the more that makes you more valuable to your employer. Like maybe they're going to get rid of a department, but like, hey, or a certain job function, or there's a promotion opportunity, you're like, hey, I know how to do this. I know how to, I might not be excellent at it, but I know enough to be dangerous, and I'll go all in and learn how to do more. And so the more valuable you are, the more likely you're going to either retain a job or be promoted. So that's my advice there.
You guys, that is such gold. I hope this is like ingrained. That was such great information. So we have a little bit of time for questions, so not a lot of time. Does somebody else have the mic? I can. Julian, do you have a mic? Here, I can do this.
Yeah. So, Sarah, I remember at the beginning of or the breakfast, you were talking about how like Fox Sports has used some of your guys' technology, and I was thinking that like I'm pretty sure I've seen esports being like broadcast on like ESPN 2 or 3. How what does it like take to get a traditional sports coverage like broadcast company like ESPN to cover something that's like kind of niche and unique like esports?
Look, if there is one thing that's true, it's they are hungry for content right now. And networks are charged with having to stay on air 24 hours a day, and they need us more than we need them. And so they are always looking for content to be able to use. So I don't think it's what does it take to get on there. It's what partner is the right partner for you to choose to work with, right? Because not all of them are created equal, and not all of them are open or even willing to let the community, the games community especially, be who they are. Because there's some wild cards in there. And so really it's finding the right partner, and then making sure that you have, the right mutual understanding of what their needs are for the traditional linear media broadcast output, but then also understanding, first and foremost, we have to stay true to our audience as well.
Thank you.
Oh, Dallas, for you. I made eye contact with Dallas.
Thank you. So this is for Sarah. So there is a lot of different video games like for like esports, like there's first person shooters, MOBAs. What would you say has like the biggest market right now for like storytelling and like working in it? Because I would like to know, like, does first person shooters, is that something you can make a story out of people versus like, a 5-person team for League of Legends or something like that?
Yeah. So I think it really game agnostic, right? So we treat all of them the same. It doesn't matter what the game is necessarily. What matters is who the person is. More so who the team is, who the org is, what the lore of the organization is. Those are the things that people actually resonate with. So just like, when there's trades that happen on traditional sports teams, people move around. People who are fans of Cooper Kupp, like welcome to Seattle, right? Like they're now Seattle fans. And so because they come with him. My husband's one of them. And so really it's about the person more so, and the individual brand, because the individual brand, if you have a team of fantastic individual brands, you've got a powerhouse of an organizational brand.
That's great.
This is for just like anyone on the panel, but in terms of content, like sometimes you're able to get a direct source, sometimes you're not, in terms of like TikTok or short form content or even YouTube or things like that. How do you have any tips for like differentiating your content? Because in reality, they could just Google or they could go watch Stephen A. Smith or something like that. So like, how would you differentiate your content?
I can answer this one since I do a lot of TikTok and Instagram. Yeah, you always have to be creative and you always have to think outside of the box. And, something that's similar to TV broadcast is you want to have new content. And basically, from our point of view, if it's going back and touching on our legends that we've had, like Marshawn Lynch or Richard Sherman, if it's like a simple photo of Ernest Jones signing his new contract and then making it a fun trend, I think one thing is staying on top of the trends, but then making it your own. So that's been huge for us. We're trying to stay, always stay new and innovative with what's going on in the world, what's going on with social media, but then also having like a unique look to it. If you're telling a story, if you want to have like more of like a Stephen A. Smith, broadcast, whatever it is, he has a take on, let's say, I was gonna say one of our old players, but let's say Jackson Smith-Njigba, and you're, hearing his take, and then you're like, okay, well, I want to make it our own. So it's basically putting your twist, bringing yourself out there, putting yourself out there, and making a spin that's one, complements the Seahawks brand, whatever brand you're working with, and then two, just kind of is yourself. Because I think the biggest thing, and Sarah said it too, is just like staying true to yourself. Whatever you put out there, be proud of it, work hard on it, and just, when you have your content out there, just be like, yeah, that's what I did. So, yeah.
I'd say when I was at Delta Dental, my brand was about smiles and how do you make people smile. And so I was working with the Sounders at the time, or with one of my partners, and what makes people laugh? What's funny? Well, it's Halloween. And so I went to like the party store and got like a bunch of like a hot dog costume and a banana costume and a pirate outfit. And I took it to one of their practices and I got permission. And I was like, hey, who wants to put these on? And then we got pictures of the players in like a hot dog costume and a banana. It was just ridiculous. And they're all sweaty, but they're wearing these really funny costumes. And then they start fighting over the costumes. And then we're taking pictures of them. And then it was just a simple vote for your favorite, costume, your favorite Sounders player in a costume. I mean, it's stupid and silly, but easy. And people loved it. Like it was hilarious. And at the bank, like, how do you make finance like fun and intriguing? For the brand with WaFed, a lot of it's about social impact. So when we go out, we take photos of our we get the big check, and we take that in the community, and people love, I don't know why, but like a big freaking check is like, people love it. And so we take that out, and then they're like, oh man, I get a picture with the big check. And then we post it on our social media channels, and then we highlight the nonprofit. We don't highlight the money we gave them. We don't even sometimes tell how much we gave them. You can see it in the check, but we hey, this organization is doing these amazing things in the community. We want to promote them, so check them out or give them your money or whatever. And so we did this at a Gonzaga game actually in February, and we just posted we're partners with Gonzaga, and we're like, hey, can we do a check presentation to this nonprofit, this Family Promises Spokane? And they help homeless families transition from homelessness to stable housing. And they're one of my favorite nonpartners. They're just really great people. And so we get out on the court in the kennel between periods, and we get the nonprofit folks out there. We get the big check out there. I'm taking pictures of everybody. Everyone's like really happy and cheering. We just talk about the nonprofit. We just tell them how wonderful this is, and we hope that this helps further their mission. The next day at our Northtown branch on Division, this guy comes in. He's like, I was at the game last night, and I was in the kennel, and I saw BECU, and I saw all these Bank of America and Chase and all these other brands that paid, God knows how much money to be in the kennel, to be affiliated with the team. And he's like, not one of them was doing anything in the community. And he owns like 5 car washes, and he's like, I'm moving every line of business and all my personal accounts over to you guys. It was huge for $10,000. That made the decision for him on who he wanted to do business with. It wasn't a sign, it wasn't advertising, it wasn't a click. It was a real authentic thing that we were doing in the community that meant something to him and resonated with him. And I will always stand beside the fact that you need to have some kind of social impact in your work. I also manage our foundation, so I get like a really good feeling about the things that I do. and it doesn't make me feel so bad when I'm hanging out with like Jamie Lesiak. So at a
Oh my
pack game.
gosh.
So also find something that nurtures your soul too. If you can
Yeah.
find that in your job, great. Make that happen. And if not, volunteer in your free time or do something. And remember that like you need to nurture your soul as well as your career.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was so great. We just want to, first of all, thank you for being here today. And I want to thank our panelists for spending the time and with all of you and sharing your knowledge. Thank you guys.